Well, let's get started. Hey, thank you so much for logging into this webinar. I'm excited to share some things with you. We're going to talk about using digital tools to reach unchurched people. And we'll keep this brief and really spot on, but got a lot of stuff to share with you. And I'm excited that you're along. Looks like we see a bunch of people jumping in right now. Thanks for jumping in. I see more and more people logging in. That's awesome to see. Glad to have you guys here. It's going to be fun. So first things first, my name's Jason Hamrock. A little bit about me. I've spent 20 years in communications and marketing. I was the communication director at Central Christian Church in Arizona for about a decade. And then my recent role here is I get to serve as the CEO of missional marketing and having a blast at doing that because I get to talk with churches all day. And it's a real thrill for me. I'm super passionate about the local church. And so kind of in the sweet spot of bringing a lot of history and a lot of new things that I've learned from dealing with churches and get to share that with all kinds of churches moving forward. So yeah, every week we are talking with more and more churches and just kind of trying to bridge the gap on how do you reach unchurched people and using technology, which is ever changing, to the table and to be able to speak into that. So really glad to be a part of this. Thanks for tuning in. What we're going to be talking about today are a handful of things. We're going to be looking at the right mindset when it comes to digital advertising. What we're going to talk about who's your target audience. We're going to look at some digital options. Is this better than traditional advertising? We're going to explore that. What kind of campaign or campaigns should you be running? And then how can that be measured? What are the costs? And then is this something I can do by myself or really do I need to find someone to help me? So we'll be uncovering all this today. Well, let's start with the right mindset. I always share with churches that advertising is really the second best way to grow your church. The first is your congregation. You have got to be pouring into your congregation. They are your best marketing engine, if you will. So providing them with digital tools or perhaps paper, handout cards, that kind of stuff, as you give them those tools on the weekend, the best way to grow the church. And they need to be inviting their friends, their family, their neighbors, their enemies, everybody they need to be focused on. And so use your congregation, okay? But let's talk about the second best way. Why do we actually advertise? Well, the only reason, and this is kind of our mission at Missional Marketing, but the only reason we really want to do this is to reach unchurched people. We are here to grow and expand God's kingdom here and now. And so using digital tools to advertise is all about reaching unchurched people. Second is actually to remind our own people. It's no kind of coincidence that often we're trying to always constantly reach our own people. They only, reaching them, they come like 1.7 to 2 times a month these days. And some churches are different than others, but that's kind of what I'm picking up when I'm talking with churches. And so how do you continue to connect with your own congregation? You can use digital tools for that. So those are just 2 great reasons why you would want to promote something, okay? So when you talk about traditional, I'm not against traditional methods. When you talk about traditional, it's print, maybe a direct mail piece, it's a billboard, perhaps it's a radio or TV or certainly newspaper. A lot of that stuff is starting to shrink, but it's still pretty effective. But traditional methods used to be the only option. Well, here comes digital technology, and with the advancement of mobile phones, it has really opened a huge world for reaching people. And it's fun, from my perspective, to see the gap close in terms of being able to get an ad out there versus are they showing up to church, right? Well, digital is changing everything. It's changing the cost. It's changing the trackability. It's changing the delivery. It's not slowing down or going away. So here's a little chart that kind of blew my mind when I first saw this. And the idea is this, that you kind of look over the years from 2010 all the way through the 2019, where here we are in 2017. And for the first time ever, this year, digital is going to outperform TV in terms of ad revenue. Think about that. That is staggering. And it's not slowing down. Where digital, you've got Facebook and Google and Instagram, all these different companies, they are growing by leaps and bounds in the total ad spend of companies. Companies know that you can use digital to reach people, and they are jumping on board. You slowly see the decline of TV, and I think that's going to continue to trend. You look at the other past, the other ones in here, magazines, newspapers, outdoor directories, even radio. You just start to see that getting slimmer and slimmer. It's not a coincidence. Now, let's talk about who is your target audience. So I put this screen on here, but I really want to break down and speak about that, because often when we work with churches or we just consult with churches, it's about who is your target audience. Being able to identify who you're going after is really important. It's not just people, and of course we can say that, but really, who is that target audience? And every single campaign or every single event or maybe a conference you're going to have has a target audience. And so you got to be able to identify that. But speaking specifically with millennials, I put this on here because we talk about millennials. Obviously, the church is spending a lot of energy and a lot of time, a lot of resource understanding how do you reach millennials. And if you look at to the far right, those are people that are, the 30%. They are going to church. It's important to them. They're saying it's important to them, which is great. You got this middle 40% that's kind of on the fringes. They could go either to the left or either to the right. They're not exactly sure, but you got this 30% over here, and I think it's actually trending more in the 30% where they're saying, you know what, I'll find God elsewhere. Church is super, irrelevant. It's not relevant to me. Church is boring. It feels like God is missing from church. Church feels out of date. I don't like the people. I mean, you just start to look at that going, yep, you can see some of that. And that's how millennials are thinking. So in that regard, you've got to be careful about that message and who your target audience is when it comes to advertising. Something that we've got to think through a little bit deeper than when we, in the past. So pretty important. Now, there's really two types of digital advertising, okay? The first one is interruptive advertising, and the second one is search advertising. We want to understand your target audience. It's key. So what is interruptive advertising? Interruptive is saying, hey, I want to put an ad out there in Facebook or Google Display Network, which I'm going to explain all this, or YouTube, and you're saying to the person, listen, we got something for you. So if somebody's kind of on their phone, they're kind of scrolling through their news feed in Facebook, they'll stop and see an ad because they're like, well, what's that? You've captured their attention. You have interrupted the flow of what they're doing through Facebook. That's the goal. And then they click on that and they get engaged. That's interruptive advertising. Happens all the time, but that's really what we call it, right? The other side of that would be search. That's a different kind of advertising. That's where somebody's actually going to Google. They're searching for something. In the church world, we kind of call that felt needs. They're looking for a felt need. And so in that case, we want to let them know, hey, we're a church. We're right down the street from you. We have an answer to a problem or something that you're searching for. We have a solution. And so those are really the two types of digital advertising. Now, what are some of your digital options? Okay, so Facebook has a lot of different options, but you probably know that. But Facebook's a great way to build a new audience outside of people who like your page. That's the goal. We're trying to build a new audience outside the people who like your page. You can do this through like lead ads, brand awareness ads. We prefer click to website ads. Click to website ads are very popular, and it's the best way to put an ad like in somebody's news feed that has a graphic, and it'll have like a title below that graphic, and it has like a sentence or two above it. It's a very popular way. You see them all the time. It's the preferred method, and click to website ads. They're great. And inside of that, it's incredibly customizable. You can build a Facebook, and some of you probably already have built some kind of a Facebook ad. And if you haven't, Again, it's really easy. Facebook makes it incredibly easy to walk through the steps of creating a campaign. I'm going to break that down a little bit more. But one of the cool tools in Facebook is actually creating what's called a lookalike campaign with a click to website campaign. So a lookalike campaign is something like this. What it does is Facebook will take your audience, people who like your page, and they'll study that. So they kind of know everything about everybody that likes your current page. And what they'll do is they'll mirror it and build a completely different audience who looks just like people that like your page. So probably families with young kids. They like this interest. They like that interest. Facebook will identify people just like that in a geo-targeted area, and then you can actually target it, an ad to those people. We love to step in and help churches reach unchurched people, and we use these kinds of tools to do that. So super, super powerful. One of the best methods to advertise, and it makes sense, right? Facebook's a social platform by nature. You know, they get interaction. People on Facebook will share everything, and you probably see people they'll share videos, and they'll just share their feelings and emotions and pictures and everything on Facebook. It can get people in trouble, but it can also be a great way to reach people and engage them. So really important to know about that. I always recommend you boost a post. Now, I mentioned earlier that we have two types of audience. One is an unchurched audience, right? The second one is your own congregation. I think it's important that a church should always boost at least one post per month, if not more, so that your entire audience can see it along with their friends. So you get the benefit of that. You need to continue to market to your own people. It's difficult. You have to build that in there. So I would do that. Additionally, you should build a custom audience and launch a campaign. I recommend at least one a month. Now, we'll get into in a minute here, get into what kind of things should you promote, but I just think you should use Facebook to promote things that are going on in the church. Here's an important nugget about that though. You can't set it and forget it. You just can't do it. You can't, set up a campaign, launch it and walk away, come back 30 days and take a look at your results. It will be a waste of money. You need to spend time optimizing the campaign. The more time you spend on it or in it, the better results you're going to see. And that's critical. That's why, churches will launch something, they'll walk away, they come back, they're like, oh, I thought it'd be better than this. And we're going to explain a little bit of that, but that's a big no-no. You can't do that. And so we'll unpack that. Okay. So when you talk about average, like what's called a click-through rate, we're going to break that down a little bit. So when you have an ad out there, it's measured by clicks and actions. So that's really important. So what does a click-through rate look like? Well, these are some industry standards here on what people are, are seeing in terms of average click-through rates. So I'm looking over here and I see legal and retail kind of get some decent, like 1.61 and 1.59. That's basically doing some math saying, okay, how many clicks do we get? And let's just go ahead and divide that by, how many people we actually reached. And so you can kind of get a click-through rate. What's that look? How many people clicked versus how many people we reached. So that's your click-through rate, which is great. So what the average click-through rate in Facebook ads across all industries is 0.9%. Okay. So you're looking at 1.6, 1.59, 0.9%. Okay. That to me is pretty poor. Because the great news about that is churches always get better results. That's really, really good news. Normally campaigns that we run, and this is just kind of a reference point, we get anywhere from about 2 to 4% on clicks and actions. That beats the industry averages. It just tells us that people will respond better to when the church is promoting something. They'll respond to it better. Of course, people that, and this is people outside of you. So of course, the people that like your page are going to respond better, we would hope. Something that the pastor's promoting or something that you guys got going on, that makes sense. But we're trying to reach people outside of your church that are unchurched, and we still get those kinds of click-through rates. That's great. It's really, really good news for you. So again, using Facebook to reach those people, incredibly important. If you're not doing a campaign in Facebook, start. now. This is a great ministry season. It's kind of getting launched off here in the fall. It's a great opportunity to do just that. Okay. But Jason, millennials, they don't use Facebook. I get that all the time. And this is kind of surprising for you because this is actually not true. If you look at this, I do a lot of research in this stuff, and this comes from a reputable company that does a lot of digital research and that kind of stuff. So this is millennials ages 18 to 34. That's our millennial sweet spot there of digital audience penetration versus engagement of leading social networks. So you kind of look at this and go, oh, that's really interesting. You got kind of like Snapchat, Pinterest, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Vine. They're all right in there. Tumblr. But there's Facebook. They're up there and to the right. This really threw me for a loop. What this tells me is that indeed, millennials are using other types of products, but all of them have a Facebook account. And it's just this misleading kind of, I think it's a misleading thing to think that millennials don't care about Facebook. They absolutely do. Personally, I think one good reason is that, as people tend to kind of grow up and get married, start to have kids, they're more active in Facebook because, well, their mom and dads are in Facebook, and mom and dad want to see the grandkids, right? So there's more engagement there. And I just think they kind of mature to using Facebook. We'll see if that trend holds. But again, this was done about a year and a half ago. So it's not far off, I don't think, but Facebook absolutely is, important to millennials. They're using it, and that's important to know. Okay, let's switch to Google. I really love Google and all the tools they have, right? So they really have 4 great tools that you can use to reach people. We're going to talk about all 4 of these tools. 3 of them are pretty much the same here, and then there's one that's called search. So you have on these 2, far left, you have the display ads and you have video display ads. Okay, I'm going to talk about that. You have YouTube, and then you have search. Okay, so let's dig into this a little bit. Now, Google display ads and video advertising, those 2 on the far left, that is literally that's literally on thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of websites. That when somebody joins the Google Display Network, what they're saying is somebody that owns a website. Let's say I go to ESPN. I like to check out sports scores and things of that nature. So I go to ESPN. Well, ESPN, if you ever go to their homepage, you're going to see ads like there'll be a Nissan ad or maybe a Target ad or something like that. What you're going to see is those ads. That's the Google Display Network. That's where ESPN says, "Hey, we'd love to be a part of the network of websites that's saying, yeah, Google, go ahead and display an ad on our website. We'd love to have you do that. Go for it." And websites will build space in to have an ad show by Google. It's not a pop-up ad. It's one that's built into the website. Why they do that is because should somebody click on that Nissan ad or that Target ad while on ESPN, Google will pay ESPN. So as you can imagine, ESPN gets millions of visitors every month. And so the odds of people clicking on those ads, pretty darn good. So inevitably, Google is going to be paying ESPN. That's just one example. But what's really cool about that is you can geo-target that. So you can either have a static ad or you can have a video ad. Video ads always perform better than static ads, but you can geo-target those ads. You can identify an area and target people in that area. How cool is that? So you can literally draw a map or maybe a zip code, draw a circle around, like drop a pin, on a map and like do like a 5-mile radius around your campus, or you can pick a zip code and you can target people in that area. It's also keyword search based. So you have these ads, you can actually add some keywords into these campaigns so that keyword specific things that people are searching for, or there are people they're looking for, it'll pop up and it'll show on those websites. That's pretty cool. The other thing that I love, 3 things that are really important that I love about Google in their display ads and their video ads is that it's trackable. We can absolutely watch what people are doing. It's incredibly cost effective, which I'll cover that. And it's mobile responsive. Google has taken some strides. If you haven't done a Google Display Network, you kind of know about it, but you haven't done it for a while, they are coming along just fine. They are understanding they need to compete better with Facebook in terms of interactions. And so their new mobile responsive ads are pretty slick. They actually look like something you want to click on, and they're really expanding their abilities to be more creative with text, with images, and it's pretty cool to see. So we've been encouraged by where Google's going with their display ads, and consequently it's driving up click-through rates. So that's a bonus, which is great. Okay. Google YouTube advertising. Obviously, people watch YouTube all the time. Incredibly popular. So if we can load up a pre-roll video, there's a lot of options to doing that. You can do like 15 seconds, 30 seconds. You can have them, if they click, obviously then it'll play the rest of it. It'll click to go to their website. You can build in where you want to have it play for a little bit, but it'll go off to, they can skip the ad, so it's a little bit cheaper. There's all kinds of options you can do with YouTube advertising and pre-rolls. I highly recommend it because it's also keyword driven, specific, and so keywords can direct where your ad's going to go. If somebody's searching, let's say somebody's looking for parenting issues, like they're looking up parenting help, or they're searching for videos on parenting, and you have a parenting ministry, you could create a cool video that says, hey, if you're looking for parenting help, come here. Awesome opportunity to do that. Or maybe you have a marriage conference coming up, and you want to use YouTube to promote that marriage conference. Well, there's keywords we can do. We can target those ads, geo-targeted. Lots of cool things that we can do. Okay. It's trackable, it's cost effective, it's mobile responsive. That's a theme, isn't it? So all this is trackable, cost effective, incredibly mobile responsive when it comes to YouTube. Highly recommend it. Okay. The third, and I'm not going to go too deep in this because I'm really wanting to focus more on interruptive, but Google search is a very powerful tool because it's people looking for something in Google. They're searching for addiction support. They're looking for how to raise kids, and they're struggling as parents. They're looking for financial help, right? It's not like it's not benevolence. It's more like, listen, I don't understand. My wife and I both work, but we get into the month and we're broke. I mean, we need to be on a budget, and maybe they've tried Dave Ramsey, maybe they haven't, but you probably have something in your church that can help them, but they're not finding you. So that's a whole nother thing, but we call those a felt need. And you can place an ad in front of them. I do have another webinar that I really break down Google search and why every church needs to think about how they are structuring their website, okay, to show up organically as people are searching for things. But additionally, you can also do AdWord campaigns, which are incredibly effective because now people are clicking to go to your website or they're calling. And we're seeing a lot of churches that we're working with have a lot of success with that. Just another awesome avenue, but Google search is really important. So why is this a better option than traditional? Here's my opinion, right? And I've done all of this, but I think when it comes to digital, the most important thing is it's super cost effective. Pennies. If you do a direct mail piece, you're probably going to spend at least 25 cents, probably more up to 75 cents to $1 per piece, right? Depends on the size and all that kind of stuff. But it's when you talk about digital, now you're talking about pennies versus quarters. Super cost effective. It's geo-targeted. You want to reach a specific audience? You sure can. You can still do that in some other mediums, maybe direct mail piece, but you can't do that with radio or TV or newspaper. But you can with digital ads. Tracking the click. That's probably the biggest thing, is tracking the click and what they do next. Tracking the click on where people go from their Facebook page, and then you look in your Google Analytics to say where did these ads come in, and what did they do next? What page did they visit next? Did they register for something? All that kind of stuff. Tracking that click and what they do next is incredibly powerful. The last one, and I think this is exciting for somebody like me. Technology is closing the gap. What gap am I talking about? I try to explain to churches that when you advertise, you don't know if people show up, right? I kind of coined this, this thing I use, and I've heard other people use it, where when I was a communication director, I was trying to get cheeks in the seats, right? So we're trying to fill up our, worship center. We're trying to get people to come on the weekend. When we would do advertising, we never knew if they showed up unless we ask them to kind of raise their hand, or if they stop by Starting Point, or maybe they would register for something, but we don't actually have people registering to come to church, right? So there's that gap. I knew I needed to advertise. I just didn't know if it actually worked. Technology is closing that gap. Technology is going already there, and we're working hard to really bring these tools to the churches we work with. But technology is going to allow us to not only target an ad, we can do now, watch people who click on that, but then watch if they show up. How cool is that? You can't do that in any other medium. That's why I'm so excited about digital and what digital can bring and where digital is going. It's all this technology, and it's pretty awesome. So what kind of a campaign should I run? Great question. If you are new to this, I highly recommend that you look at doing a Facebook campaign. It's incredibly effective. There are a lot of tools out there, especially in Facebook, that can help you create and launch a campaign. I mean, you can actually Google how to run a Facebook campaign, ironically, and you can learn and watch videos on how to do this. This is not difficult. But if you do need help, we're here to help you guys. But if you haven't done that before, I highly encourage you to do that. If you are already running a Facebook in Facebook and you're running ads and you're really familiar with that, yeah, Jason, I know that, been there, done that. Expand to Google Display Network. We can help you with that, but again, go Google that. Learn how it's done. I'm telling you, it's important that the church steps up and reaches out to people, digitally speaking, and engages. And I think that's one of the best. It's the second best way to grow your church. And we are partners to expand the kingdom here. That's our goal. And so I'm wanting to encourage you. Make sure you're either doing Facebook or you're doing Google Display, or both. Really effective. Okay. So we've run a lot of campaigns for churches. Like we'll do, so here's some options or ideas. We do like awareness campaigns. We're like either branding the church, or we're video testimonies from changed lives. Super powerful. Doesn't need to be super polished. It actually could be like literally an iPhone just recording somebody giving their testimony. How cool is that? Sermon series, like a new series that is attractive to unchurched people. You know, if you're studying exegetical study on the book of Romans, maybe not, but if it is something that's a little bit more like, how to have margin in your life, or, we're going to talk about parenting. We're going to talk about marriages. It's all biblically based, but it's more attractive, and it's kind of like a felt need for people. That's a great thing to promote. Conferences. So when you talk about marriage or parenting, events, maybe it's a VBS, like women's or a men's event. Maybe it's a guest speaker you're bringing in talent, like a comedian, like Michael Jr. You might have Michael Jr. coming in, or you may have a concert going on. There's all kinds of things that you can promote. So you have to kind of, look at your calendar. What do you have going on? And think about how you can promote. Okay. So how can it be measured? Oh, it's so cool. It is we have a lot of cool tools that we offer churches to use. But you can, really monitor your campaigns. I think it's actually tracking your campaigns rewarding and easy. It is actually a lot of fun to be able to see just the generated clicks that are going on right in the middle of a campaign. And through your Facebook ad manager or your Google AdWords, you can see how well everything is working. It's not hard to do. And it is great to measure your impressions, your CTR, which is called your click-through rate, your conversions, the demographics of who is clicking, where they click, devices used, and a whole lot more. It is incredibly powerful to be able to track that stuff because you can learn. So data drives better decisions, right? So you can learn how it's done and move on. I'll give you a quick example of one that this is a report we just did for our church. I think we just did this past month, where they had, a great campaign. There's the breakdown. They reached a whole bunch of individuals on this campaign, right? 24,000 people. They had 45,000 impressions. They had 431 clicks and 612 actions. So you're looking at like a really high click-through rate right there. An audience, you can see the demos of the audience. So you can look to see who with the gender, male or female, the ages of those people, the devices they use. Here's the ads. There's some really great tools that you can use to produce stuff like this. So why would you want to produce this stuff? Well, to me, I'd want to show this to my direct report and say, hey, we ran this campaign. Here's some of the results. So that looks pretty cool, right? Plus, then you can kind of start to stack these as you do them and kind of compare. Okay, when we use these images, we get this kind of response. When we use those images, we get that kind of response. Or we're using this video, this works well, but that video, well, that one didn't work so well, so we're not going to use that again. Data drives decisions. And so these reports are fantastic to be able to do that. So I encourage you. What does it cost? Great question. The cool thing about Facebook and Google, they're really, really cheap. They're cost effective, right? But you do have some minimums. Like if you were to run a Facebook campaign, a click to website campaign, that's a minimum of $5 a day. So you have options. You could either, decide to run it for just a week or 2 weeks. We like to run them for your information. We like to run our campaigns for at least 30 days. So it optimizes well. So that means you'd have a $300 minimum to run a campaign. You don't have to do that. You can certainly do something different. You can turn them on or turn them off, or that's just labor. Kind of a pain, but you can do it. It's manually, but you can kind of choose to decide what you want to do there. But typically you want to spend about $300, to have a really good campaign. Here's the thing. You can certainly find someone in your church to assist with a Facebook campaign if they're knowledgeable. If you've got people in your church that are good at this stuff, maybe you want to use them, right? Churches hire us due to the fact that our fees are pretty flat. And they like that we don't go over budget and we keep our eyes on the campaign. So they kind of hand that headache off to us. Pretty much all of our clients are churches. So that we just work with lots of churches. And so they'll hand that headache off to us, knowing that it's in good hands. They've got a budget. We can anticipate how many impressions, how many clicks, but you can do that as well. So important to know that. Facebook campaigns are anywhere from $20 to $30 per 1,000 ads if you use us. It kind of depends on video versus static and the runtime, but a minimum would be like 15,000 ads. And Google display campaigns, really, really cheap, like 1.5 pennies per ad. 1.5 cents per ad. You'd want to have a minimum of about 6,500 ads, per month. But Google Display Network costs less, but they are than Facebook, but they don't perform as well as Facebook. So that is important to know. Okay. Now, can I do this myself? Absolutely. I want to say this once again. Our goal is to expand the kingdom. I want to encourage you to do digital advertising. I want to encourage you to roll up your sleeves, get into Facebook or get into Google and do it. The challenge is making the most of the funds that you are spending. I'll just be upfront and honest with you. Sometimes it's better to use a professional to make sure the campaign is done, is successful. But you can do this with the proper time commitment. Sometimes church staff is a good way to go, but there's a price because if they're spending time on that, then they're not spending time on other things. And so that does cost. Volunteers can help, but there's some limits there. I did that for a decade of engaging volunteers, so I know what that looks like. Finding a good agency is highly recommended. It doesn't necessarily have to be us, but finding a good agency that you can work through is important. But I would also ask them to show you the ropes so that you can learn. Again, I encourage you to become educated doing this. I put that little asterisk there because it changes constantly. This stuff changes all the time. So be prepared to stay up to date. You have to stay up to date. Incredibly important for that. But it absolutely can be done on your own or with a committee of people in the church there. Hire a local agency or look to hire us. Either way, any options you use, I recommend you do it. Okay. So finally, this is kind of a thing I'll throw out there. If you're interested, I can show you some specific examples of what campaigns have worked well in the past. Like we've done a lot of these campaigns. I love sharing this data. I love sharing information. I think it's a great opportunity to kind of go back and forth. And we'll break down what a budget should achieve. Like what Jason, I've got, $500. I got $1,000. I've got $200. What can I do? Let's jump on the phone and talk about that. I'm available for, I always kind of earmark 30 minutes for a call. It can run over, but in order to schedule that, I just need you to text me your name, your email, and your church name. and I'll respond and we can get something going on my calendar. So my cell phone is 480-773-9115. If you just send me your name, your church name, and your email, then I'm going to have my team connect with you. We can schedule a call that's convenient for you and on my calendar, and we'll do that. Or you can email me at jhamrock@missionalmarketing.com. Oh, my cell phone's already buzzing. So it's kind of blowing up a little bit. That's good. Just text me. I'll make sure to respond. If I don't get back to you guys right at the second, like as soon as we're done with the webinar, then I'll make sure today our team, either myself or our team, will get back before. Thank you guys. I'm seeing that those are coming through. So that's cool. And I tell you what, with the start of the fall season, this is a great opportunity to reach unchurched people and invite them. Lastly, I'll just say that, if you do reach out and you schedule a call, I'm going to share with you what my offer for your first campaign will be. I'll only do this over the phone. I actually got some cool tools that I'll share with you that are a little bit in beta, but it's some incredibly cool stuff that we're using to, digitally speaking, to continue to reach people. I'll share some of that with you. And we do have a cool offer, but I'm only going to give that to you over the phone. So again, just send me an email. A lot of you are texting me right now. And love to hop on the phone. We're starting this new ministry season. It is a great time to be engaging with digital, promoting what you guys got coming up. I mean, between new sermon series, events that are taking place in ministries, conferences, certainly like Harvest Festival kind of things, Thanksgiving, Christmas, all that kind of, it's here, it's happening. It's already almost August. And so I encourage you to reach out. Love to connect with you. That's it for me. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time. Again, email me or call me. We can break this down. Love that you guys are serving the church. Thank you so much. God bless you. We will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.